Hi everyone, I'm Nancy, and I'm 45 years old. Let me tell you a personal story. I met my ex-husband, Arthur, at work, and we hit it off right away. Our friendship turned into a romantic relationship, and after dating for 3 years, we felt like we were meant to be together, so we got married. I've never been too keen on having kids, but Arthur always wanted a family. We talked about it a lot while we were dating, and I hoped he'd eventually be okay without children. The first few years of our marriage were great, and we didn't really talk about having kids much. But then, after our second anniversary, Arthur brought it up again. I was hesitant at first, but after discussing it a lot, I agreed to have one child. I made it clear that if we wanted more kids later on, we could consider surrogacy or adoption. Arthur was really happy with this compromise, and we started trying for a baby. It wasn't easy though. I had a tough pregnancy with constant nausea, weird cravings, and sensitivity to smells that made me feel even sicker. Despite all this, Arthur was incredibly supportive. About 7 months into the pregnancy, during a checkup, the doctor noticed something concerning on the ultrasound. She said our baby was healthy, but there might be some issues with his legs. The news hit us hard, and we drove home in silence, both lost in our worries about the future. When we got home, Arthur hugged me, and we comforted each other, realizing that our vision of a perfect family might not come true. I blamed myself, feeling guilty about our son's condition. Arthur, however, firmly reassured me that I shouldn't blame myself for our situation. He reminded me that we were just facing a tough break of luck. Even though I hadn't initially wanted children, being pregnant changed my perspective. I started dreaming big for our son, imagining playing sports together, witnessing his first steps, and enjoying his playful antics. I longed for all the typical joys of parenthood. But now, faced with the reality of our son's potential disabilities, I felt like those dreams were being taken away from us. It seemed incredibly unfair, not just for us, but especially for our child. Arthur admitted that he never imagined parenting a child with disabilities, but he also pointed out that life is unpredictable, and we have to accept our circumstances. I was scared that having another child in the future might not be an option anymore. I believed we should focus solely on taking care of our son's needs, fearing that introducing another child later could lead to resentment. Arthur suggested we put off discussing expanding our family until after our son was born, giving us time to process everything. Still reeling from the news about our son's condition, Arthur's casual mention of having another child in the future unsettled me deeply. It felt insensitive given the challenges we were about to face. Despite my changed attitude towards him, Arthur didn't seem to notice or respond to it. 4 months later, our son Mason was born. Unfortunately, due to incomplete nerve development, Mason was paralyzed from the waist down. Despite this, my overwhelming emotions were relief and joy that he was otherwise healthy, with no additional complications. Adjusting to life with Mason was challenging for both Arthur and me. Our days were filled with sleepless nights, work, and constant care for Mason, including frequent doctor's appointments to monitor his health and development. The doctor suggested we consider treatments like medication or surgery in the future to potentially give Mason some sensation in his legs when he got older. We kept an open mind about these options. Mason grew into a remarkably bright child. By the age of 3, he was talking, and by 5, he was exploring beginner-level books. His intellectual achievements filled me with pride, especially considering the extra challenges he faced. However, Mason also faced discrimination. Despite his abilities, his school suggested placing him in special education. We strongly opposed this, as Mason was fully capable of participating in regular classes without any issues. When Mason turned 6, we discussed exploring medical options for his legs to see if he was interested in potentially increasing his mobility in the future. However, Mason expressed a deep love for his wheelchair and had no desire to change his situation. His contentment with himself was heartwarming, though I understood that his feelings might change over time. I was ready to support whatever decision Mason made in the future, whenever he was ready to reconsider. However, Arthur showed impatience with waiting for Mason to be ready to explore medical options. He acknowledged being pleased with Mason's acceptance of his condition, but expressed a desire to pursue all possible avenues to improve Mason's mobility sooner rather than later. This difference in perspective revealed the complex emotions and decisions we faced as parents navigating our son's journey with his disability. Arthur argued that we shouldn't simply accept Mason's condition when there were potential ways to improve his situation. He believed in exploring every possibility to enhance Mason's life. In contrast, I countered by emphasizing that Mason, despite his challenges, was already living his best life. He might not walk, but his intellect and talents shone brightly. My stance was about respecting Mason's autonomy and letting him guide us on if or when he wanted to pursue any treatments. Arthur raised the concern that waiting might mean missing a critical window for treatment during Mason's developmental years. I understood his point but felt strongly that such a significant decision shouldn't be rushed or taken lightly, especially given Mason's age. The fear that Mason might grow to regret a missed opportunity was valid, yet burdening him with such a decision now seemed equally troubling. Moreover, I worried about the impact on Mason's self-esteem. The message we might inadvertently send that he wasn't perfect in our eyes could harm his self-perception. Arthur countered, suggesting that successful treatment could lead to gratitude later, especially considering the societal challenges faced by those with disabilities. He reminded me of our initial reactions, acknowledging the harsh reality we navigated, and argued for proactive steps towards potential improvement. Admittedly, Arthur's arguments made sense, and amidst many discussions, we agreed to proceed with treatments. The following year and a half was a whirlwind of hospital visits marked by exhaustion and heartache. Each time Mason experienced pain, Arthur remained the steadier of us, consistently assuring me of our decision's merits. However, as time passed without significant improvement, my resolve waned. Finally, witnessing Mason's resilience and happiness despite the treatments, I advocated for a halt. I argued that Mason's contentment with his identity outweighed our pursuit of a solution that seemed increasingly elusive. Despite Arthur's attempts to persuade me otherwise, my conviction was firm. Mason's well-being, as he perceived it, was paramount, and our interventions, well-intentioned though they were, needed to be reassessed in light of his happiness and quality of life. Witnessing Mason endure so much pain became unbearable for me. As we navigated through the myriad of treatments and surgeries, I felt increasingly isolated in the caregiving role. It seemed Arthur had withdrawn his involvement, diminishing over time, leaving me to shoulder the majority of Mason's care. When we decided to cease Mason's treatment, Arthur expressed his disappointment quietly, but the matter seemed to settle without much further discussion. Months after stopping the treatment, Arthur broached an unexpected topic: the possibility of having another child. He pointed out that Mason was nearing 7 years old and suggested we consider either adoption or surrogacy. I was taken aback. This was a path I had firmly closed, a decision made during a time of immense stress and focus on Mason's well-being. Arthur's suggestion felt out of touch with the reality of our situation, especially considering his recent detachment from our family life. Arthur's approach, seemingly casual about such a significant life decision, frustrated me. I couldn't help but respond with sharpness, driven by the stress of the past months and his lack of presence. His reaction was one of defensiveness, accusing me of expecting him to revolve his life solely around our son's disability. His words were hurtful, suggesting a disconnect in understanding the depth of love and commitment I held for Mason. The conversation escalated quickly, with Arthur insinuating that I harbored negative feelings toward our situation, a claim I found deeply offensive. My stance was clear: introducing another child into our family, given our current dynamics and the focused attention Mason needed, would not be responsible or fair to anyone involved. Arthur seemed resigned, attributing any future consequences to my decision. The statement left me bewildered and upset. At that moment, any desire to understand Arthur's perspective vanished. His consideration of expanding our family in light of our recent challenges and his diminished involvement struck me as incredibly misguided. The discussion ended in a stalemate, with a heavy air of unresolved tension and blame marking a significant turning point in our relationship and family dynamics. Initially, the idea of expanding our family was something I pondered deeply, especially in the early years after Mason was born. My research led me to countless stories where siblings felt neglected or overlooked due to the extra attention required by a brother or sister with disabilities. This wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It's a natural outcome when one child needs more care. I couldn't bear the thought of bringing another child into our home only to possibly feel that they were second to Mason's needs. After expressing my concerns, Arthur withdrew from me entirely. I tried to give him space, hoping he just needed time to process our disagreement, but his silence stretched into weeks. Mason noticed the tension and questioned if we were fighting, to which I could only offer a gentle lie about a minor disagreement. Time passed. A month, then more, and still, I held onto the hope of reconciliation, continuously seeking any opportunity for dialogue. 4 months into this growing divide, I stumbled upon a devastating revelation. Arthur had been communicating with someone named Gloria, exchanging messages filled with affection and plans to meet again. Their conversations hinted at a future together away from me. This betrayal cut deep, far beyond the disagreement over expanding our family. It was a breach of trust I had never anticipated from him. The thought of confronting Arthur crossed my mind repeatedly, yet I chose a different path. It was clear I needed to prepare for what might come next, particularly for Mason's and my future. In the following 9 months, I found work as a scriptwriter. Though it wasn't a lucrative job, it provided us with some financial stability. This period wasn't just about earning. It was about laying the groundwork for a life that might soon change drastically, ensuring that regardless of Arthur's decisions, Mason and I would have a solid plan in place. I had been saving money in secret, preparing for a future that suddenly seemed inevitable. This fund was my safety net, a secret I kept from Arthur. Then the day I had dreaded arrived. Arthur walked into our home, not alone, but with a woman by his side. When I asked who she was, he coldly introduced her as Gloria, declaring she was there to replace me. His words were like a punch to the gut. He spoke of his misery not just recently, but over the past decade, describing our life together as a nightmare. The announcement that he intended to marry Gloria and start a new family the right way this time was shocking enough. But his disregard for our son Mason and his responsibilities towards him was unbearable. Arthur callously revealed that Gloria was pregnant, implying their child would be normal in direct and cruel comparison to Mason. His lack of respect for our son, referring to him as anything less than, ignited a fury in me. Arthur's blame for our family's challenges on my reluctance to have more children and his insult towards Mason as a monster were beyond forgiveness. In a moment that seemed to strip away any remaining respect or love I had for Arthur, he demanded that we leave our home within a week, tossing divorce papers at me. The venom in his and Gloria's smirks as they looked at us was chilling, but it wasn't his betrayal that hurt the most. It was the disdain he showed towards Mason. Finding Mason in tears after having overheard everything broke my heart. I comforted him, assuring him that he was nothing like what Arthur had described. We retreated to our room, where I began to pack, determined to leave this toxic environment as soon as possible. After Arthur and Gloria left, it was just Mason and me. This moment marked a new beginning, one filled with challenges but also a resolve to protect my son and build a life where he felt valued and loved, far away from the cruelty that had just unfolded. After the confrontation with Arthur, I found solace in action, swiftly organizing Mason's belongings and securing the divorce papers. In those moments of turmoil, I reached out to my mother, who promptly arrived with my father to assist us. They enveloped us in support, helping us pack and welcoming us into their home. Amidst the chaos, a strange sense of relief washed over me, lifting the heavy burden of dread and uncertainty that had plagued me for months. With my parents' support, I hired a competent lawyer who helped me navigate the legal battle for alimony and child support. The verdict favored us, awarding substantial support for both Mason and me. Much to Arthur's displeasure, his reaction mattered little to me by then. My focus was on rebuilding our lives. The following years brought a mix of healing and new challenges. While I immersed myself in work and caregiving, Mason discovered a powerful outlet for his emotions and ambitions in Paralympic sports. By the age of 15, he had developed a keen interest in wheelchair racing, practicing with determination. Mason's aspirations transcended the financial implications of professional training and equipment. My immediate response was encouragement, promising to provide whatever he needed to pursue his dreams. This commitment sparked the beginning of Mason's journey toward becoming a national athlete. His dedication was palpable, and witnessing his commitment filled me with indescribable pride. As the national tournament approached, Mason's qualifications were impressive, easily securing his place in the competition. Our family celebrated his achievements and the upcoming event with a gathering that was as much a send-off party as it was an expression of our collective hopes and dreams for him. On the day of the tournament, the stadium came alive with the vibrant energy of competitors and supporters. Chants filled the air, a testament to the community and spirit of the event. It was a day marked not just by athletic prowess, but by the strength of the human spirit and the enduring support of family, illustrating the transformative power of love, resilience, and ambition. During the award ceremony, Mason was invited to speak. He expressed his gratitude towards me and his grandparents for our unwavering support. But then he took a moment to mention his father, Arthur Lambert, crediting his absence and neglect as an unlikely source of his drive in athletics. This bold acknowledgement in front of the crowd and later echoed in newspaper headlines stirred a reaction from Arthur, who reached out after years of silence. Arthur's call, prompted by the news of Mason's success, was filled with claims of pride and a desire to reconnect. Yet his words fell on deaf ears. The time for reconciliation had passed, and Mason's accomplishments were his own, achieved despite Arthur's earlier abandonment. Arthur's plea to speak to Mason was met with a firm refusal, a decision supported by Mason himself, who had no interest in reopening old wounds. Mason's journey didn't stop at that one race. He continued to excel, participating in numerous competitions and consistently securing victories. His story, marked by resilience and a refusal to be defined by his disability, resonated widely, offering inspiration and serving as a testament to his strength of character. This experience, shared in the public eye, carried a powerful message. Kindness and support can propel individuals to achieve greatness regardless of the challenges they face. Mason's success story is not just about athletic prowess. It's a narrative of overcoming adversity, the importance of family support, and the strength found in forgiveness and self-belief.